welcome to this special show. We come to you live from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where every year the rich, famous and powerful leaders gather to get a sense of some of the most pressing issues in the world. You've been hearing some of the big voices we've been bringing to you from Davos. The high point clearly of the meeting today was the address of the Iranian president, where he said that Iran has no intentions of making a nuclear weapon and that it has very peaceful nuclear goals. We'll be talking more about Rouhani's session in just a bit, but first to bring you the India perspective from Davos, the conversations among corporate leaders clearly around what will be the outcome of the elections, because given the slowdown, they're now clearly looking at some political stability returning, after which bold decisions can be taken to bring India's growth back on track. A short while ago, I spoke with three top leaders of corporate India, Adi Godrej, Ajit Gulabchand and Vineet Nair, talking about the fast-paced political developments unfolding back home and the impact it could have on the Indian economy. Take a look. Hello and welcome. We're coming to you from the World Economic Forum in Davos, and with me today, three Davos veterans to talk about the India mood here. And does anyone really care about India right now? Mr. Adi Godrej, Mr. Vineet Nair and Mr. Ajit Gulabchand, thanks very much for being here. Mr. Godrej, you've been coming to Davos for over 20 years. India's image has seen several highs and lows. How is India being perceived here in Davos this year?
Well, I think clearly people are concerned that we've had a slow growth over the last couple of years. But I think there's general expectation that post the election things might change. I think most people feel that we might get a government which is more growth oriented, and then Indian growth can pick up. The great thing is most people realize that India has the potential, unfortunately, which we haven't leveraged.
What we are seeing now is the emergence of the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi. That is also, according to many, more left of centre than they would have liked. Your thoughts on what some of the recent political developments mean for India as such?
Well, the Aam Aadmi Party has suddenly risen. It's done very well in the Delhi election. And post the Delhi election, when Arvind Kejriwal became the Chief Minister of Delhi, it did gather some momentum across other parts of the country. But I think they've lost some of it in the recent actions they took in Delhi. I think they are very leftist. Their thinking is based on old socialist thinking. Of course, there are varying thinking in the party itself. And I think if they have any say in a government, whether it's a state government or a national government, I think it would lead to a very low growth situation. And I think the rest of the country should explain to them CII is going to meet the Aam Aadmi Party to ensure that the economic program is a little more sensible than it looks now. But I don't think they will have much of an impression in this election. I think they may get 20-30 MP seats, but despite that, I think we could have a government that is growth oriented.
All right, Mr. Gulabchand, the events that unfolded in Delhi over the last few days, the dharna that the Chief Minister was sitting on, are these issues that are talked about here on a global platform like Davos? What's the kind of message it sends out? The Finance Minister yesterday in a session that NDTV hosted went on to say that he should be doing his dharma and not dharna. Is India's politics something that's being talked about and it's coming up in conversations here?
The only politics that they're discussing is that when is the election happening so that we can move on.
Okay.
That's the only politics everybody is discussing. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party, should it come anywhere near power, it will be a disaster, like it has been in Delhi. It is a completely leftist party with definitely anti-business, anti-market party, and also doesn't seem to adhere to the rule of law. It has always been an agitation. It continues to be an agitation even in office. So I wouldn't...
Mr. Gulabchand, there are several professionals, several within the corporate world who are actually supporting the Aam Aadmi Party. It's a party that at least came on a plank of rooting corruption out. So at least in that sense, do you think it's been a change in politics?
There's nobody in India or anywhere in the world that wants corruption to exist. They all want corruption to go. How does it go? What should be done? What is the kind of policy framework, implementation framework, administrative framework must exist so that corruption is reduced is the issue. Not just an anti-corruption platform, one. Number two, it's fine for many members of the business community and banking community that have felt that they should join the Aam Aadmi Party. Good luck to them. But they must remember they are giving support to the party that wishes to nationalize them. So if that's how they're thinking, most of us believe, and most people have said this to me, that these are just opportunists, not real, genuine supporters of the Aam.
I don't think there is any major business-based support for the Aam Aadmi Party.
Right.
A few corporate executives, basically some who have left their companies recently, have been attracted to the anti-corruption stance of the party and have decided to join. But many of them have been very critical of their policies again of late. So I don't think you should think that that means there is any major business or industry support of the Aam Aadmi Party.
Right, and particularly going forward, one wants to know what is the economic philosophy, because that worries many people. They've already, for instance, reversed FDI and multi-brand retail in Delhi. Mr. Nair, they've also gone ahead and said that, you know, power cut in part of power tariffs, free water supply. Now, these are really populist moves, but they don't make sound economics.
You're quite right, and as RD and Mr. Godrej have said, but I don't think there is a consensus even within that party as to what they are doing. In fact, it almost appears that they are surprised by the fact that they are in power. And in many ways they wish they continue to be in opposition. But maybe we should not undersell Aam Aadmi Party, because there are quite a few things. They are trying to bring certain morality in political life. They are trying to bring certain responsibility that holding public office doesn't mean that you have the key to the treasury and that you can misuse resources like some of the other people at that level have been doing. They're talking about corruption. They're talking about principles. So in that case, to the extent that has an impact on Indian politics, I think it's a positive. And the fact that they were able to garner so much of support in the initial phases is indicative of the huge sense of frustration which most part of India feel at this point of time.
We're talking about a new government getting into power. Whenever the talk comes about Mr. Narendra Modi, the Congress party time and again says it will not be a secular government. Does the business community set aside those concerns and say, no, we need to vote for growth now?
Yes, Narendra Modi does represent a very different philosophy from Nehru. Nehru was for government in business. Nehru was for the government to be the doer. Modi is for government just as a facilitator. Nehru was for all investment to be done by government, whereas Modi is for investment to be done and jobs to be created, and no more doles. So we are discussing a more growth-oriented, pro-market economy under a man who personally, genuinely, without reading Milton Friedman or anybody like that, talks about a market economy. So fundamentally, I think, yes, you will get an improved one. And when you say too little, too late for that government. India is still around for 10,000 years and will be afterwards. So a little hiccup is not too late for the rest of us.
All right, and you believe that a government perhaps led by Rahul Gandhi may not be able to deliver the kind of promises that you're talking about, what India needs at this stage when we've seen that sharp slowdown?
It's not a question of what government can deliver. I think we have to see what is the political reality today, what people are going to vote. As Vineet mentioned, people are a little fed up of the way political parties have run themselves over the last few years. So I expect there will be a change.
All right, so you've got industry leaders there clearly talking about how they would be voting for a change at the centre. They are fed up with the way the policies have been handled and the sharp slowdown that they've seen. Very strong views there coming on the disillusionment with the current government. Also there, Mr. Adi Godrej and Ajit Gulabchand particularly talking about how the Aam Aadmi Party is too leftist and is losing momentum. But we had a very different view coming in from Sunil Bharti Mittal, clearly one of the most respected industrialists once again here in Davos, saying that the trend of the emergence of the Aam Aadmi Party will make politicians clearly more accountable. He was speaking at a special session moderated by NDTV's Vikram Chandra. Listen in.
I just wanted to ask